In the days when peace and tranquility reigned in the Rudek Empire, the emperor decided to take the daughter of the most powerful family as his wife. So the eldest daughter of the rich and powerful Espelon family became empress. Soon she gave birth to twins, a prince and a princess. The prince was named heir to the throne. After a while, the emperor took another woman as his wife. And so the youngest daughter of the Schwendel family, whose fighting power allowed to strengthen the position of the empire among other countries, became the second empress. She gave birth to a second prince. But one day a great misfortune happened. The second empress was murdered. Her death remained unsolved, and the murderer was never found. As a result, the emperor stripped the first prince of the title of heir and gave it to the second prince. The official reason, however, was given as the cruelty of the first prince. The knights returned. The people shouted, "Hooray! They say they have won again. That's because our empire is strong." Knights on horseback ride through the square, returning from battle. The first prince of Raven Espelin, he also holds the title of duke. Wow, he went straight into battle? Look at him. He doesn't even have any wounds. I guess the rumors about his love of war are true. He's never missed a battle. They say it was the first prince who caused this war. People on the streets are whispering. Is it true that the twins shed blood? Do you know what other rumors there are? The crowd on the street is whispering. He had heard that they had killed the second empress, said one of the gawkers. People don't change. They wouldn't dare to squeak in front of Mr. Chloe, thought the knight sitting on his horse. Everyone was whispering, but when the prince looked at the people, everyone immediately fell silent. The knight said to the prince, "Sir, pay no attention. Let's go to the palace." People were always chattering. A little girl suddenly ran out of the crowd and rushed straight towards the prince. Her brother runs after her and yells at her for what she's doing. "Let's get out of here." But the little girl is very stubborn. She had a book in her hand. Her brother said, "I'm sorry, his sister is still little and doesn't know how to behave at all." He asks them to forgive them and shoves the girl by the shoulder, telling her, "Karen, apologize." But the girl was not going to apologize. On the contrary, she held out her hands to the prince to give him some book and said, "Brother Prince, she's his fan." Prince, when he heard the word little brother, he got very angry. He was incomprehensible and unpleasant how he was a brother. If he was a prince, how could he be spoken to like that? As suddenly there were shouts of girls from the crowd, "Bro Prince, such shoulders are just crimes. The prince's killer smile. Hey, once she'll die for him." Someone in the crowd shouted, "Let go." She couldn't bear it. She was ready to die by his hand. The prince didn't realize what was going on, that everyone was cheering and shouting such things. The girl held out her hands and once again wanted to give the book, and asked me to sign this book that said, "Prince Among Roses" by Jelly Boone. The story takes us from the castle with the prince just to the common people in the village. "She owes her forever," Angela said. "She has incredible handwriting." "Oh, come on, it's not that hard for her," said the girl. "That such a beautiful girl doesn't speak." "Listen, good child. With such beautiful handwriting, she should definitely go to the city where she could write to order," said the old grandmother. "Ha-ha, town," said Angela. "It's a pity to lose such a beauty in the countryside," said the conservative grandmother. "Here I am finished." "Is there anything else you need?" Angela asked. "No, thank you very much." "Oh, Grandma suggested that Angela meet a boy." "Oh, don't bother," said Angela. "She's already lost count of the number of dates she's had that have gone wrong." "Good job, see you later," said Angela and waved goodbye to her grandmother. And she's thinking about the city. It's complicated. But she still wants to go there, all because there's a prince there. While Angela was dreaming about the prince, she heard the girls on the street discussing. One of them says that she heard today the first prince is back, so curious. And the other one answers her that she also wants to go on a military campaign to the death. She wants to go with the prince. The girls saw Angela and they screamed, "Oh, hi Angela, she's a fan of princes too," asked the girls, and Angela shouted that the prince is back or what. When the girls got together, they started discussing the prince. She can't help but be a fan. "He's so handsome," they asked Angela. "But if rumors are to be believed, he has a nice personality, and he's also an excellent swordsman." The girls laughed. "Oh, she's curious. How did you become a fan of the prince? You've seen his portraits?" What was asked. "Didn't you become a fan after that?" One of the girls said, "Prince Among Roses. Didn't she see?" It's the best-selling book in town right now. After reading it, she was 90% likely to fall in love with a prince's insanely popular book. How come she hadn't heard of it? The girls wondered. Plus, they helped with sales, which was excruciating. The girls handed her a book. Angela, when she saw the book, said that it must be very interesting indeed. She said she would borrow a quick miscalculation for a while and return this book. The girl grabbed me and ran. It's a woman she's not doing a favor she would have paid and read for her own pleasure, said the girl. She was angry because Angela took the book and didn't pay. And the other girl noticed that there were some people standing there. These are the guards of the imperial family. What are they doing in our village? They thought. Noticing the girls, did not turn to them. Look, he needs to ask them a couple questions. Is there a person named Angela in this village? The girls looked at each other and were silent. They realized that they had just met Angela. They said, Angela, yes, we've seen her. Now we're going home. She opened it and saw what it was, she said. Her fanfic had become a book. How's that? Insanity. Its weird writing style is exactly the same as hers. How it's spread. She hasn't written to anyone in a long time. Hasn't shown anyone until now. The girl mutters to herself, except for that street vendor who lends when she's about to buy another portrait. That's right. A street vendor, Angela thought. Well, what day is today? Isn't he supposed to show up? But she's got him now and handing over a book and selling it behind her back. How can that be possible? She resented. Oh, her head! The girl grabbed her head because it ached with excitement. You say people are willing to pay money for this stupid fanfic? Was she surprised? I wonder if the prince has seen this book too, the girl thought. She must find the merchant and demand the book back. She's not a child anymore. This writing seems so crazy now. It could also be a problem. Well, thank God this thing found a reader. There's a knock on the door. Angela. It came the girl who had given the book to Angela to read. Have you gotten the book yet? Angela asked. She opened the door and said, Sorry to leave so abruptly, the book is really busy. The girl coughed and said, I'm sorry, but these people here said they were looking for you. The guard stood behind them, and then one of the guards said, Angela, author of Prince Among the Roses, you have disturbed the peace of the imperial family with your ridiculous joke. We are detaining you on charges of espionage, they said. Angela didn't understand. Espionage? She asked. Same day morning, Imperial Council. Before His Excellency the Crown Prince arrives, he would like to hear what the esteemed members of the council think of this victory. What do you think? Don't you think His Excellency Raven Espeline has once again accomplished a true feat? He will not deny his services, but they were full of cruelty. Chancellor, haven't there already been terrible rumors? Oh, what are those rumors? Something about a surrendered village that he completely destroyed and spared no one. There's also talk of him burying prisoners alive. That's horrible, even if they are enemies. Ho ho ho, that first prince. He risks his life performing feats and yet his notoriety grows and grows. While the chancellors were discussing the prince in council, Princess Chloe Espeling hurried to join them. The meeting will begin shortly, so kindly take your seat, the chancellor said. It stinks so bad in there she just can't sit still any longer, said the princess. She'll be back soon, she told the chancellor. One of the chancellors jumped up and said, What stinks? What rude words? Chloe thought that military honors would change his image, but they only hurt his reputation. At this rate, Raven would really get into something big. Prince Raven is so cool, really. Chloe heard the girls discussing the prince among themselves. Oh my God, is she crazy? How could she bring that here? If someone from the imperial family catches her, she'll be in trouble, said one girl to another. But it was so interesting she couldn't resist and took it with her. No worries, they're all at the meeting, so no one will find out. So you two, said Chloe. You say you dare mention a name? Startled. I apologize. In the book the prince was so awesome. They weren't trying to malign him in any way. So she didn't hear it. They think Raven is awesome, Chloe thought. That Raven who is always surrounded by monster rumors. Chloe told the girls to tell her every last detail of what the book was. The book is called Prince Among the Roses. About 2 weeks ago this novel gained rabid popularity among the people, and you say she's that popular? No wonder there was such a strange atmosphere in the streets, said the princess, and began leafing through this book. That was the reason for all the commotion, he said. Yes, the Duke did. He has been told. What do you think of that? Having read a few lines from this book, the brother prince is so and so heartless. Amidst countless flowers, he is like a rose. How many honeybees will suffer from his thorns? Chloe continued. And then he took his dagger and stabbed it through. His assistant said it really looked like a masterpiece and he would love to read it. But he wouldn't after the book was chopped up with the dagger. Prince said he couldn't bear to even look at such blatant bullying. The prince said he had to get rid of him. His aide asked about whom. "Are you talking?" And the prince said, "About the author of this. It is night. The carriage is taking our protagonist Angela to the palace on charges of espionage." As the carriage rides, the girl ponders. The mere fact that her old fanfic has been circulated scares the hell out of her, and she's been accused of espionage. And what the hell was going on? Angela couldn't understand. Besides being taken in a carriage, she was chained up. The carriage drove so terribly that the girls thought it was not a carriage but a coffin. So much for the transportation of the empire. For some reason she thought it was falling apart as it went along, and as it happened, a stone fell under the tire on the road. The carriage jumped up and hit the ground, so that the carriage door opened. "She really did crash. What kind of a joke is this?" Angela said. "She's had enough of these wagons." The girl has bad wagon memories from her childhood. Years ago, when she was still young, only 50. "You said you didn't need the baby, so take it, as much as you can get. You wouldn't know it from the looks of it, but she writes very well. Office work, letters and so on, she's good at that. What's this all about? When she has to work at the firm for the rest of her life, you worthless creature." Then as a child, it was the same situation. The wagon door was just as open and the girl was thinking, should she run away? So now, in reality, she is sitting in the same wagon, and also the door is open. If she runs away, will she be able to meet the prince again like she did that time? No, that was so long ago. These people look like knights of the empire. So if she just put her faith in the merciful prince, then... And at that moment, she heard those knights talking. Isn't she going to be killed? Is it really so necessary for us to lead her along? He had heard the affair was being investigated to see if she was acting on the prince's side. The fact that a novel glorifying this prince is face published is strange in itself, one of the knights said. Angela heard the whole conversation. She thought, oh, what a surprise. Surprise. She has no choice. We should run away after all. She stood at the open door. She was very frightened, and then she was frightened as a child, only she stretched out her leg to jump off the carriage. Just as suddenly someone reached out a hand, intercepting her, and he put her on his horse. They rode off. This man had a mask and a hood. Who's that? Angela thought. And this guy asked her, are you the author? Then wait inside. He threw the girl back into the carriage and rode after her himself. The guard turned around who was driving the wagon and saw there was a horse following the wagon. He thought, where's the rider? The horseman was above him, on the roof of the wagon, and was already ready to attack. That's what he did. He attacked and killed the horseman who was driving the wagon. The other knights who accompanied her saw him and said, ambush! His strength is terrifying. They asked who the hell he was. He must be out of his mind if he dares to attack the knights of the empire. The knight, who was the only one left alive because everyone else had already been interrupted by this guy in a black mask, saw a horse that was stained. The same spots as Prince Raven's horse, and he immediately guessed it was Prince Raven. He repeated, it's the prince. He's as good as dead now. But the prince put his sword back, and the knight thought, will he really spare him? But why? But he had to run anyway and report everything to the imperial family. He just mounted down and rushed on his horse, like someone jumped out of a tree and killed him. Angela watched the whole thing. Her only thought was that she would never get out of here alive. See you in the next life, Prince. From this shock and fright, the girl simply fainted. She's not dead, is she? Asked the archer, who had jumped down from the tree. Just fainted, because of the shock. But why were you following me? The archer took off his mask, and it turned out to be the Duke's aide, who said that wasn't he chasing you, it was you chasing him, the Duke, on his secret mission from Mistress Chloe. Duke thought, what is she thinking, Chloe? Why did you take your horse? Man, and what were you going to do if someone found out? The deputy said. Duke went to the wagon. His aide turned and said, Duke, wait. What are you going to do? Like what? I told you I was going to get rid of him, the writer, pulling out his sword. You can't! The assistant shouted. Mistress Chloe said to bring the author at all costs. Why the hell do you always get in his way? You are my bodyguard. one of my knights, and you should know better than anyone whose orders to follow first," said the prince to his assistant bodyguard. "Please forgive his rudeness, but for what reason did you save her earlier?" the Duke asked the bodyguard. Duke didn't know himself and began to ponder this reason, but so far he could figure out what it was. Putting the sword back in its place, he said, "I said I would explain everything later. Then we'll decide the girl's fate later, too. She has such a temper that it is impossible to predict what she will do when she learns of the failure of your mission," the Duke said, thanks the bodyguard and bows to the Duke. "Please go back first, he'll take care of the rest," the bodyguard told the Duke. The bodyguard went and put an arrow in everyone's back so no one would guess. The next morning came to the scene of the crime. From the worn arrows, it was immediately clear that these were bandits who were after the wealth of the nobles. That was the conclusion the knights drew. The knights who stood and saw these dead discussed among themselves that the bandits themselves didn't know they were attacking imperial knights. How foolish of them. The man in charge told everyone to shut up and not whisper. "I can't believe they're wasting their time on this insignificant matter, all because of some writing." He wanted to deal with everything as quickly as possible and forget about it, but he was so unsatisfied. He'll never understand what he's thinking. It's the Crown Prince, thought the Chancellor. As expected, all the blows are struck in life on important organs. The rest is a cover-up, thought the prince, who was examining all the dead. "Well, have you finished your inspection?" the Chancellor asked. "What do you think of it, Your Highness?" "Yes, Chancellor, it's certainly interesting," he said. Memories of our heroine Angela. She sees herself as a little girl who has escaped from the wagon. She stands in the woods and watches. Across from her is a boy, a little older than her, with beautiful yellow eyes. She woke up saying, cringed out of bed, "It's just a dream," she thought. And looking around, she thought, "What do you mean this is a dream? Where is she? It's beautiful all around." She's pretty sure she fainted. And in all her village, no one has such gorgeous furniture as she has here. Ha, it looks like this is her end. Take two, and when else will she be able to enjoy such luxury, even in her dreams? Right? It's all thanks to her meeting the masked gentleman and blood spatter, and thank you, Mr. Mask. It's only because of you that she now has such wonderful memories, and hell, they're gorgeous dreams. If she wakes up from this dream, she should write it all down at once and share the experience. Wait, what if it's not a dream? She thought. Then she's murdered. Did she die and go to the afterlife or something? Not in the afterlife. There can't be a house this beautiful. So much happened in one day that she can't make sense of it anymore. I wonder what all this happened because of, Angela thought. Because of the masked man or the Imperial Knights, or the dude who decided to sell the fanfic she wrote when she was younger. Fanfic. A little piece of reminiscence. Though you can't tell from the looks of it, she writes very well. Office work, letters and so on. She'll do just fine with that. And what's the point of all this when she'll have to work on a farm for the rest of her life, you worthless creature? I should never have started writing in the first place, thought Angela. But she didn't want to lose anything. All her good memories. About the prince who helped her when she was little. And because she has an excellent memory, Angela began to remember that night, and those eyes that were under the mask, hidden, and those eyes she remembered from her childhood, the prince's yellow eyes. They were the same. Angela screamed and fell on the bed. She said, "The man in the mask, the assassins, was a prince!" Ha, but that's impossible. The prince is a very nice man, she said, calming herself down. At her cries, a maid came into the room saying that she had just heard a noise. "Are you all right?" she asked. "Oh, you're awake," the maid introduced herself. "She is Erigi, the maid who was introduced to you. She is honored to serve you, Mistress Scholar." "Ha," Angela said. "Welcome to the estate of the first Prince of Rudekt, Archduke Raven Espelinda." "You mean the prince's mansion? Then it turns out the prince is here?" asked Angela. "Of course," the maid replied. Angela's mouth dropped open. She'd already forgotten about the masked man. That psycho who drenched everything around him in blood could very well be the prince. "Erigi," came to mind. Says the lady scientist. "Do you think she could address you less formally? You just look a lot like your older sister, and she's younger than you." "Of course, by the way, she's not a scholar at all," Ange replied. While the girls were chatting sweetly and getting acquainted, there was a knock on the room. He asked her to go and see if Madam Scientist was awake, not to chat with her. Gosh, please accept her apology, Sir Mano. She was worried enough. Maid Reggie said, "Oh, you even brought clothes. In this aristocratic house, even the maids are so elegant, it's like a whole other world," Angela thought. The maid said, "Oh ho ho, well, what are you still doing here? Our Madam Scientist is still in her pajamas. She'll let you know when she's done. Until then, stay away," shoving Mano under his arm to get out. Then Reggie took the dress and said, "Sis, don't you want to change?" Angela asked her where they were going. "To the prince, of course." "Is that really him? Is it really him? But the prince? Oh my God, is she asleep? I wonder if he really doesn't remember her," she thought, sitting up and looking him straight in the eyes. The prince looked at her and realized how infuriating her look was. For a while they sat in silence. They had a silent battle. Mano stood by the door. He didn't like the whole situation either, and he wanted to quit. At last their silence was interrupted by the arrival of the princess. Mano bowed and said, "Greetings to you, mistress." Walking into the room, Chloe said, "And this must be the author. Call her Angela, please." Angela stood up to greet the princess, but the princess put her hand on her shoulder and said, "Sit down. You are a special guest." Wow, this is the first time she's seen twins. They do look a lot alike, Angela thought. "Hi, Raven," Chloe said. "Let's dispense with the hello," her brother replied. There was a book on the table. Angela saw it and thought it was her book. It had been pierced with a dagger. "Tell me, why did you bring the author here?" asked the prince. "Maybe the reason is because she's important to you. Why are you so angry? You should be grateful to her for turning a goofball like you into the main character of her marvelous book," Angela said, sitting up and thinking about the fact that she was really sitting so close to the prince. That's awesome. But Angela thought she seemed to be in complete danger. As she looked at them, she noticed that they looked the same in the straight line as well. The difference is that she has a dimple, and the prince has one when he laughs. The prince and the princess argued with each other. He shouted, "Did she even read it?" And she told him no. And he read it. And he read, "There's even a kissing scene between the prince and the bodyguard in that disgusting writing about him." The prince points his finger at Mano. "What?" asked Mano. He was in shock too. He shouted, "Why him?" And Chloe laughed from imagining the prince and Mano together. Only Angela thought, so that's his bodyguard she didn't know. "You think it's all still there?" Chloe says. "You said you hated it, but it looks like you've read quite a bit of it." How embarrassing. She wanted to die. Angela sat there, not knowing where to turn in shame. Angela decided to change the subject and said that because she had fainted yesterday, she couldn't remember anything. "It was you, Your Highness, who saved her from the masked man." Yes, it was him, confirming Angela's words. "I'm sorry," Chloe said. "What, you followed Mano on the assignment she gave him?" "What do you mean?" asked Angela. "The prince once again said that the masked man was him. He was going to kill you back there. The reason she's here now is Chloe's wish," he said. "If you want to live, you should burn all the nobles in the city and then disappear from his sight afterward. You should hurry before he changes his mind." He asked if she understood, but Angela looked at him and couldn't figure it out. Surely it was a prince. "Chloe decided to make things right because he's a total asshole," she said, "and he was very talkative today." "Finished? Why is he killing our author's mood?" "She's going to write a masterpiece for us, isn't she?" said Chloe. Mano said, "Just ignore what he said. What a scare he gave you." "Well, enough of the chatter. Let's get to the point now. The reason we rescued you is because they need a sequel." "A sequel," Angela interjected. "Do you know why you were taken to the Imperial Palace in the first place?" "Because the Crown Prince didn't expect a few pieces of paper to have such an impact on public opinion. They were very surprised to see the townspeople welcoming back Raven. And it's not just him. The image of the whole house, which was at rock bottom before, has improved dramatically. The Crown Prince's faction thinks that we're the ones pulling the strings to regain the title of heir to the throne that was taken from us. That's why they're interested in you, the main culprit. After all, even if the Espelent Stopton family name is in the mud, it's hard to fight us openly. So they wanted to catch you and accuse their family of manipulating public opinion. And after that, your life would be ended that way. In other words, we are greatly benefited by your affair, while the Crown Prince is only harmed by it. And we rescued you so that we could profit even more from your work. Since it has become known to them that you are the original author, It will be very difficult for you to survive against the imperial family. They can protect you from any danger. So she hopes you will continue writing the story, and about Raven hiding your identity. What do you think? What do you think of our terms? The prince, clutching his head, said, Well, what the hell? Ah, yes. From the moment the contracts are made, everything from the ointment incident onwards must remain ours. And if you decide to go and tell anyone about it, they'll send our master a mask, and he'll get rid of you before the Crown Prince's faction gets to you. After all, it's dangerous for them, too, Chloe said. Angela began to ponder. But then they said she was on her way to certain death, even though it's not fair. That's why she risked her life and jumped off the wagon. What do you think? Will you sign the contract or not? Do you want to live or die? Asked Chloe. Angela answered that she wanted to live, meaning she would sign the contract. She was upset, of course, but she decided she was going to live for today. Gosh, to think she suggested such a thing as always doing what she wants, thought the prince. It's so nice to walk around town here, isn't it? Even our clothes look nice on you, said Reggie, the maid who had gone out for a walk with Angela. She heard you were from Bess. Please don't worry about your appearance. We'll get you some new clothes in the latest Rudect fashion, Chloe said. Angela thought about what it meant and said, Okay. She hasn't actually been working at the mansion for long, so you could say she's new. So she's just very happy that someone like her is lucky enough to serve someone as important as you, said Reggie. Especially for some reason she seems clueless, and this despite her position above Angela. It's called introducing a nub in quotation marks. An important person. Angela was practically silent the whole way, and Reggie asked, You've been looking really depressed for a while now. Are you okay? She doesn't know what happened, but right now she should put all her doubts aside, Reggie said. Everything will be fine. And Angela thought she was really right. This was a dream city, after all, that she wanted to visit. But while the girls were running around carefree and having fun, then they were followed again by the masked man. It was without a doubt. It was her, he said. Where do we start, sis? Would you like to see the new clothes? Asked Reggie. Sure, but she doesn't know where to go, so if Miss Elrigi wouldn't mind. Ha, you talk so mannerly, said Reggie. She did ask you to call her Reggie, and please keep it simple, the maid asked. A little reminiscence before the girls went into town. Before leaving, Mano said, Miss Angela, there's something he'd like to tell you. He thinks you should behave less stiffly. You're a scholar now. Wherever you go, you'll be highly respected. Ah, all right, Angela replied. Yes, and we are after all getting help from you as the author. So it'll be fine, even if you act more confident. And there's also the question about that kissing price. What the hell? Started to say. But Angela ran and said she had to go now, would take his advice to heart, and ran off. A little flashback to a bad ending. Okay, Ridge, Angela said. She would call her Ridgie. You had a meeting with Prince Raven, didn't you? How did it go? The maid asked. It's good that he doesn't remember her, but the way he's changed in that time is frightening. She's really sorry she wrote that creepy thing out of nothing to do. But why is he threatening? Was he as cool as he was in the novel A Prince Among the Roses? Asked Reggie. Did you read that, sis? She's a big fan, the girl said. The prince makes her head so blown away that she doesn't even know how many times she's reread this novel already. She's really looking forward to the next installment. I wonder when it will come out. Angela was both walking and thinking, and she was reading this nonsense too. To what the hell? Oh, the clothes in that store are really cute. Let's go check it out. The girls went into the store, and there were indeed many beautiful dresses. But Ridge doesn't have the money for such clothes right now. Ridge replied that money was nothing to worry about. She was told that if you're going to stay in the mansion, you need clothes. So you just have to buy a whole mountain of stuff. You can just show them this document with the prince's signature on it. Angela asked, Did the prince decide that? No, it's Sir Mano. Angela sighed, thinking that his bodyguard, for sure the prince had no reason to care about her. The girl walked out. The saleswoman said, Welcome. The clerk saw the girl and thought it was the pink-haired girl again. Here she comes in every day to iron and dirty her clothes before she leaves. Angela said then she'd take a little look at the dresses. It must come so easily to you, sister. Since scientists are just required to wear a gown, There's no reason for you to dress up. Let's just get something quick and go eat something delicious. Angela thought, yeah, she doesn't like to dress up. She doesn't know anything about her at all. Angela was stuck on one of the dresses. She stood staring at it for a very long time. When Reggie noticed this, she walked over and asked, "What are you looking at?" When she saw it, she said, "Wow, it's so pretty." There was a very beautiful yellow dress along with a hat in the window. The girl thought that she had never had the opportunity to wear such a gorgeous dress. Nuriji, like a child, jumped up and said, but she thought this would be more suitable. And then the saleswoman couldn't take it anymore. She pulled her hand away from Riji's dress and said, "Jesus, do you even think you're touching it? How dare you touch this garment without knowing its value? This outfit was designed by Louis Vuitton. You don't even realize it, do you?" He just can't believe it. "You come in here all the time dressed like a beggar and touch anything you want. You don't even have the money to buy these clothes. And yet you have such a high opinion of yourself," said the sales clerk. "Were you trying to dress up nicely because you came with your girlfriend today?" the salesgirl asked. She added, "You're not even going to buy anything, are you? Give me that dress." But Angela didn't like the saleswoman talking that way, and necessarily talking to us. "This is so embarrassing," she thought. Reggie got upset and cried and said it wasn't true. She was really going to buy them today. Angela saw that Reggie was crying. She hadn't expected it. She thought she was the kind of girl who could fight back. She was. So cheerful when they'd only come to the store. She had no idea that the salesman had had such an opinion of her all along. What a shame. And in front of her sister, she thought, and felt bad. "I'm sorry, we're buying this whole outfit, so please pack it for us." "Besides," Angela said. She grabbed the dress along with the mannequin from the display case and said, "For your information, she's buying this too. Do you have any idea how much it costs? It's thoughtless to grab it like that." An angry Angela said, "Rejik, what are you standing there for? Grab something too." The clerk said that these girls were really crazy. Angela poked the clerk with a piece of paper and said, "She'll wear this, but please send the rest here." When the saleswoman saw the signature of Duke Raven Espelinda, Angela said she was a scholar in residence at the Duke's residence. She arrived here in a hurry, so she didn't have time to prepare her clothes. She never thought she would hear such insults here. "As she understands it, you've figured it out. Please send everything there." The clerk thought it was a confident expression. It doesn't look like a lie, does it? Besides, this girl is not the kind of person you can treat with such disdain. "We hope you won't make that mistake again in the future," said Reggie. The girls changed into a dress, came out, laughed. "Sis, you are so beautiful. I guess scientists really are different." "Here, take some ice cream from me," Riggy offered her. "Thank you," Angela answered her. "It's only because of you that she can wear a dress like that," said Reggie. Angela thought, "Is this really any way to use the prince's name to buy her an outfit? Oh, she's right. She's in the shitter for spending so much. It's the prince's money, though." A little flashback from a conversation between Chloe, the princess. "The reason they saved you is because they need a sequel." "Yes, and we end up getting help from you as the author," Armano's words. And then Angela decided to dance. The thought is infuriating. Why does the prince hate her so much if he's the one who needs her help? It would be fair to not just spend his money, put it down to the wind, absolutely everything. "Ho ho, the prince is a very generous man. Just tell her if you want anything else. Let's buy everything," Angela said. The girls are walking, taking a stroll. Reggie says, "Sis, look, there's a big crowd gathering. I wonder if there's something going on." "She'll go take a look and check it out," said Reggie. "Ah, Reggie, wait!" Angela said, and ran to catch up with her. While Reggie was distracted by the crowd, Angela was grabbed by the arm by the guy who'd been following them at first on their walk. He pointed a finger at her quietly. "Shh, follow him. He has something to say, to her." Angela asked who you were, but he didn't say anything, just pulled deeper into the houses. The Emperor's carriage appeared in the square. "Sis, the Emperor's carriage is here!" shouted Reggie. "Let's go see who's here." The girl turned around, but Angela was gone. She began to call out to her. "Sis! Sis! Where are you? Where have you gone?" "Let go and explain where you're even dragging me," Angela yells. "He told you to follow him quietly. No need to yell like that. He has something to say." The man pulls Angela by the arm, further and further into the interior of the houses. Angela couldn't stand the incomprehensibility. and shoved the ice cream right in his face. The man fell to the ground and started wiping the ice cream, and Angela had to run. But when she turned around, she saw, and I heard, "Oh, my back." It was the merchant. She recognized him. "What's going on here?" Angela asked. "I'm sorry, why were you acting so suspicious when you approached her?" "This is all your fault, Angela. Because of your affair, he's being persecuted now. He's mistaken for an author. He keeps tearing down a bunch of want ads, but there's no damn end to them." Here she must ask the questions. Why does this book even exist? How could you go and sell her work without her permission? Because of that, she's in dire circumstances now, too. I'm sorry you're wanted, but you dug your own grave. And what are you going to do about the newest threat? She could have died yesterday altogether. You're the one who should be apologizing to her, mister, Angela said. Forget about apologizing. He's the victim here, the man said, pulling out a dagger. How was he to know it would cause so much trouble? How did he know it would be so dangerous? He has no idea why she's in this town, but it's a chance, all of his life. Go to the Imperial family immediately and tell them he's not the author. Angela thought that the man used to be very kind. That's not right. She didn't write this story for something like this to happen quickly. "Answer me!" she said to the man, and elbowed him in the stomach with all her might. His dagger flew out, and she took advantage of that moment and ran. He shouted after her, "Angela, wait, where are you going? Don't run away." But Angela, on the contrary, ran out to the people and started shouting, "Hey, over here! The person believed to be the author of the novel is here! Everybody over here!" Reggie keeps walking around looking for his sister, calling, "Angela, Angela!" And Angela shouts that the author who wrote A Prince Among the Roses is here. "Hey, people!" And that's when the royal guards heard. And also sitting in this carriage, the prince asked, "The author?" One of the guards shouted, "What are you thinking about? What are you doing? Grab him here quickly." This man who was impersonating Tomorrow came out to the people. People saw and said, "Hey, it's that dude with the wanted ads. Look!" "Shit, he's gotta run," the man said. "Excuse me," and began to push his way among the people. But people started poking him with the book to get him to sign it, because he's the author. All the people crowded around this man and started saying he's the author and they're fans. And he's yelling, "Leave him alone, he's not an author." And he's trying to get in amongst them. Angela runs away from him, turns around and looks. It's not what she expected at all. Either way, it's her chance to make a splash in the crowd. As she was already leaving the crowd, Angela noticed that the Imperial Knights were just entering the crowd. What the hell are they doing here? She thought. She has to sneak out before anything happens. But while trying to sneak in, she runs into someone. She bumped so much that this young man picked her up and just touched her wound, which was made by that man-crazy author. The guy who picked her up asked, "Are you okay?" He helped her, and she thought she was caught. "Yes, thank you, it's all right," she replied. His face wasn't really visible because of her hat, but she managed to make out a coat of arms just like those knights had. She realized he was some kind of prince too, because the crest was the same as the twins. This is dangerous, she thought, and covering her mouth with her hand to keep from blabbing anything, she went forward. But this young man, when he took his hand away from her, he looked at his own, and he had blood there. He said, "You look like you're bleeding. You're hurt." But Angela said, "I'm fine. Thanks for your help," and walked away. The young man's assistant standing nearby asked him, "Catch up?" "No," he said. "Let's just arrest the wanted man author and that's it." Angela finally made her way out of the crowd and saw Reggie, Sis. "Where have you been? Wow, what's that wound you have?" "Yes, it's nothing," said Angela. "Let's go quickly." The guy from the Imperial family stood and thought, "What an interesting girl, wearing boots with a dress. Not everyone can," he thought. The guards do catch this author, but he screams that he is not the author, but the author is a blonde-haired blonde girl. And that's when our boy from the Imperial family realized he'd just lost her. As he started to turn his head, the girl was gone. Blonde, he thought, and he wondered why she was bothering him. He began to recall how they had questioned the villagers and made a portrait of the author. They say she's low-born, blonde. They put up new wanted ads asking for this guy. But he said, "No, give these ads to me, but don't take down the old ones." Because of that dress, he didn't even think to check who the hell she was. "Let me go already! I don't care about anything!" the man shouted, grabbing his dagger again and waving it around. He shouted, "Who is this creep? Why is he blocking his path from the start?" Out of the way, he shouted and pointed his sword at this young lad from the ducal family. Well, here at last one of the knights couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed his sword and, swinging it, brought it up to the neck of this male author and said, "If you twitch, I'll kill you." The knight said, "That's it, all of you. Stop making noise and pay your respects." But no one knew who it was. "In front of you is the crown prince." The man author said, "Wow, so that's the crown prince?" It's the first time he's ever seen him. "We have his dagger dropped," he said. So the crown prince arrived in that carriage? What is he doing here? He thought. Except the prince picked up this dagger and saw that there was blood on it. He realized it was the girl's blood. The girls moved a little farther away and hid in the courtyards. Feeling very sorry for her sister, Rigi tried to put some ointment on Angela's wound. All because she was distracted by the emperor's carriage. "It's not your fault," Angela said. "Don't be so upset." Angela thought, the emperor's carriage. That's what she thought. That coat of arms belongs to the Schwendel family, which now controls the ruling dynasty. Since they have learned that you are the original author, it will be very difficult for you to survive against the imperial family. "Take this male author away," said the knights. "The book this man wrote is creating chaos in the empire. Any such things about the imperial family will be taken as a mockery of the crown prince, and the punishment will be appropriate," one of the knights said. "Keep all of this in mind." Said they had to hurry up. "So let's leave it as it is and move on. And you shouldn't be so rude to the manhunt man. People are scared after all. If she got caught this time, she'd be ruined." Danger does come from every direction, Angela thought as she sat on the ground near the cabin. She's thinking. Maybe it was time for her to go. "First the store and now this," said Reggie, who was still trying to heal Angeli's wound. She thinks, "It's her fault you're having such a hard time, sis," Angela replied. "The one from the boutique was right. She wore her favorite clothes today to make a good impression on you," said Reggie. "She always dressed horribly because she never had any money. She said she was hired very recently and was new on the job, given her status, and very lucky. But she couldn't adjust and was just running errands," Reggie said. "And now she's lost her head for wanting to show you only her good side. After all, she's got a chance to do something so incredible. Take care of a scientist like you." Just as she thought, a job as important as this isn't right for her. She must be very timid, actually. "I don't think she'll be all right if she runs away right now," Angela thought. "Well, it looks like if she flushes now, she'll end up hiding like that peddler." She didn't want to go back to the way things were, she thought. The wanted ad and the public reaction suggest that they still don't know who the real author is. Those knights were killed by the masked man, that is the prince, so no one seems to know the truth. And that's a good thing. "Oh, what on earth is she talking about?" Reggie said she thinks she was assigned to you by pure coincidence. She talks to them and makes sure she's replaced by someone more experienced. "God, that's not true!" Angela cried out truthfully. "Thanks to you, she was able to enjoy a tour of the neighborhood. It's not her fault at all. Don't worry. Okay, you must be hungry. Come on, let's go get something tasty to eat," Angela said. "You show her the best places in the neighborhood to eat," and held out her hand to the girl. Rigi picked herself up and shrieked a great deal of enthusiasm. She said, "Please leave it to her." "Right. I thought they said they'd let her live if she kept writing." "It'll be okay," Angela thought, though she has no idea if the prince will really protect her. Raven walked out of the castle and couldn't figure out why he kept sneezing, sniffling his nose. As he went out into the courtyard where the horses were standing, he saw Mano. "Why is this child suddenly heading this way?" asked Mano. "Sir, this child. There are many people here, so please watch your words," Mano said. All the servants ran out of the palace saying, "Our Duke, are you leaving? We apologize. We should have come out earlier to see you off." Raven said, "Anyway, he'll be gone for a few days. So tell that kid, I mean His Highness, that he's away, and generally send him back one way or another." He's once again putting him in a tight spot and leaving, Mano thought. Tut was. Raven wanted to leap out of the castle on horseback, as he had his horses put a sword in front of his nose as a sign to stop. Mano, like a true bodyguard, quickly ran up with his sword and struck the ball, the man who had set it down. "What the hell are you doing?" Mano said. "And you? Still the same master, Mano?" It was an attempt at an unexpected greeting from him. "Did you really think I was serious? It's just a joke. Greetings. You must already know that the crown prince is on his way here. He asks for a little of your attention before he leaves. Also, he apologizes if his little joke offended you, Your Excellency. What they just ordered you to go and didn't even tell you. Take her with you, Angela said. Yes, that's why she had the document. She suggested you go with her because she thought you were bored. Is that a problem? Rigi asked. Angela remembered Mano telling her that he was sorry to have to ask her to do such a thing. But could she please refrain from walking around for now? He's sure you're not happy about it, but they have to deal with the current situation, so they don't end up in an awkward position. And Angela suggested they go back to the mansion. The butlers discuss among themselves where to leave the carriage, but one says, "Probably in the backyard. I thought they said they were leaving soon, so that's fine." He's a little confused by their visit. "They didn't even warn us about it," said the second butler. "Sir, I'm sorry. Could you be more careful with the plants in the garden? They're a little hard to take care of," the butler said. But the knight didn't listen to them and plucked that grass. The second butler said, "Let's just go tie up the horses." Poor Hans. He was so proud that he was able to restore a part of the garden that even our gardener couldn't handle. More importantly, the Crown Prince paid us a visit. This is the first time she's seen him. The servant girls are discussing amongst themselves. Their conversation doesn't continue, and yet neither does she. He's so handsome. What about work have you forgotten? Oh yes, head maid, you're right, the girls said. The maid girls asked if the Crown Prince often came to the Duke's mansion like this. There was something about him they just hadn't noticed. I don't think so, the eldest maid replied. He very rarely pays a visit, much less in person. Maybe something very important has happened. The princes are finally gathered in the garden, drinking tea and talking. Congratulations on your victory. He heard you played a big part in it again, the Crown Prince said. I apologize for coming to see you so unexpectedly. He just thought that if you warned him in advance, he would run away again, the Crown Prince said, since Chloe is in charge of everything. And you are hardly ever at the palace. This was the only way I could meet you, the Crown Prince said. Raven replied, Please just lay it out. Why you came and get out. You're from his middle name, he wants to rest. You seem to be in a big hurry. You don't even take off your coat, the Crown Prince said. Your Highness, it's just the two of us here. So let's drop the formalities. And for your words, it seems as if we've grown distant from each other. Then send the guards away. After what happened, he won't want to look at that face. And that incident, the Crown Prince showed his fingers to his bodyguard to remove himself. Ha ha, it's all keeping you down, it's such a trifle. But if it offended you, I apologize, said the Crown Prince. Watch your knights properly. If it weren't for you, he'd have finished them all off by now, Raven said. He doesn't care if it's a horse or a servant. He won't let one down, even if the man who had a hand in it is he, the Crown Prince. Didn't he say it was just a joke? And smiled. You must have been very upset, so unlike you. Raven sat back and thought. Look at that kid. And yet when they were younger, he always took his side. Sometimes it was even embarrassing. Chloe doesn't seem to be here, the Crown Prince asked. And what would she be doing in his mansion? They met a little after she left. Then he should have gotten here earlier. He has something to say to both of them, but the two of them seem very busy. The thing is, his knights were ambushed recently. Of course, they were all, or Yumi swordsmen, but their weaknesses were still easily discovered. The way they were killed seemed very familiar. It reminded him of someone. What do you think? The Crown Prince asked. Stop with the unproven bullshit. He's in a shitty mood as it is, Raven said. At any rate, the man they were transporting is missing, the Crown Prince said. He already has a wanted portrait. Would you like to see it? The Crown Prince said. Thank you, I'll make do, Raven replied. Look, I think she's the one. The author of the novel that has recently become so famous. He thought he saw her in his domain on the way here. Holding out his hand, Raven said, In his domain? Yes, she was seen on the street. Bullshit, he thought. She's supposed to be in her room. At the same time, Mano had just gone to check on Angela. Upon entering her room, he found no one. Where did she go? I mean, he even begged her not to go out anywhere. It won't be good if she meets the Crown Prince now, or she's run away, Mano thought. Closing the door to her room, he thought he needed to find her immediately. And then he turned around as the Crown Prince's bodyguard was standing nearby. He said, There you are? Mano! I didn't expect it and I was scared. He gripped his sword. You didn't notice his presence? Are you really the mighty Mono? Man, if I'd known you'd be so shocked, I could have swung a sword or something. And why are you so absent-minded, looking for something? Want help looking? There's no need for that, Mono said. I'm looking for bourbon, and he thought, if he's wrong, it's a failure. It's just another empty room in the mansion, and nothing to go everywhere without permission. Well, bodyguard, said he, does she look like she's empty? Where's the owner, growing women's pajamas? Back to our princes. Raven looks at the drawing and can't figure out what it is. The drawing is very strange. What's with the lines? Some kind of bullshit. It must be sticking out of his head. Raven laughed and thought, funny, now that he noticed it, it appeared a resemblance. The Crown Prince asked, so what do you think? She doesn't look familiar? The particular one he saw on the street was wearing a dress and boots. Her side of the outfit was even pretty cute. The dress, Raven thought to himself. He didn't get a good look at the face, because it was hidden by the hat. But she caught his eye. She's an acquaintance of yours. Who knows? Raven replied. He can't say for sure, just with that drawing. If that woman was wearing a dress, it certainly wasn't her this time. Frederick was wrong, Raven thought. For now he had nothing to worry about. Anyway, don't you dare associate their family with this writing. It's infuriating to even watch. I can't, Raven said. And write things like that. But he read the whole book. The Crown Prince started reading out quotes as his bodyguard kissed. Then Raven pounded his fist on the table and got angry. He needs a rest. He'll walk you to the exit. And the Crown Prince keeps laughing. Ha ha, you really hate it. Get up, come on, Velika, to all hells, Raven said. Ha ha, seriously, you're so funny. Okay, he'll be right out. He's finished his business here anyway, and he can leave. When Mono and the bodyguard left the mansion, Mono thought that he ended up not being able to look for Angela because of someone. Perhaps the fact that he didn't see her was for the best. But where is she? Beside the prince and Raven go back to the horses. Beside the prince walks and says, also my brother once upon a time. They walk up to the horses, and the knights and knights started talking about, His Highness is back. But his bodyguard said, what are you busy quickly, everyone keep still. The bodyguard asked, you're going back. The coachman has just gone to fetch the carriage and horses. He's terribly sorry. Please wait a little while. He keeps unwittingly letting his guard down, thought the Crown Prince. You probably already know this, but there will soon be a celebration at the palace in honor of the victory, he said. He hopes that on such an occasion this time you will be present, Duke Raven, the Crown Prince said. He's not coming, Your Highness. You know he can't stand such events. He will see you off, so please leave. That is why he has come in person to request your presence. He is sure that many will want to meet the Espelin clan that played such a large role in this war, the Crown Prince said. There's still time, so please think about it. And he'll leave the portrait here too. That won't be necessary, Raven said. He's already said he doesn't know the man. The Crown Prince gave him this sheet of drawing after all and said, defend well the author. You do realize that your family will come to an end if you let him take her away from you. How? How did he know? Raven thought. He guessed he had the author, but he made sure nothing was clear from the look on his face. Wait! You said you saw her in town! Raven shouted. Why? The Crown Prince asked. She shouldn't be there. Damn, thought Raven. I shouldn't have said that. He's probably checking on him. She should be in her room, Raven thought. Raven looked at his bodyguard, Mono, and he shook his head about not having the girl there in the room. And Raven's first and only thought is that the girl has escaped. Memories from Raven's childhood. He thought she would stay with him forever. Why does everyone near him run away? Thought the little boy, holding the cage in his hands empty. If it always ends this way, he should chase them away first. Highness. He wanted to report it later, but we can say it now. There is an empty room in the Duke's mansion, which however definitely belongs to someone, said the Crown Prince's bodyguard. It seemed like this room was a woman's room, the bodyguard said as they drew up the portrait. Turns out the author is a girl. The Crown Prince thought that perhaps the Duke was hiding something, he realized. Step back, he told his bodyguard. He in turn, excuse me, he took a step back. Duke, the Crown Prince said, but heard in reply, Frederick Schwendel, look for a new bodyguard. Raven drew his sword and swung it. With that he called the bodyguard into action. With all his might he swung and struck his sword so that it flew out of his hands. And then there was such a fight. Everyone with swords started attacking each other, but Raven was very agile. In a split second, he had the Crown Prince's bodyguard on the floor and was threatening him with his sword. The bodyguard thought he was finished, and at that very second, our girls Angela and Reggie come in and see this whole thing going on. They're screaming, "And you didn't have a box of cookies left for her?" "That's all right. The knights pierced her through." Reggie asked, "Oh no, sister, what are we going to do?" "That's a shame. That's what we're in for." But Raven saw that Angela was back. She hadn't left him. Ugh, so that's where the Imperial Knights were headed. If she had known, she would have entered through the back entrance. In her haste, she didn't even think about it, Angela said. The Crown Prince walked up to Raven and said, "Is that her?" He asked him, "Was it you who saw her on the street?" Mono thought too. At the most inopportune moment she stopped here. The Crown Prince said, "It seems to be a very interesting person. Can he find out who she is?" "Madam Scientist, you were going out somewhere, or we thought Reggie had gone out alone. The horses have already been brought in, and no one can understand anything about what's going on here. Knights standing with swords, girls on the floor crying, maids, like in a movie, watching everything." Cronprint interrogated the Madam Scientist. His librarian needed an assistant, so he brought her in. The learned Ha-Ha laughed. The Crown Prince said understandably, "Is that her?" Thoth asked him, "Was it you who saw her on the street?" The Crown Prince walked up to Raven and said, "Is that her?" He said to him, "Is that the one you saw on the street?" Mono too thought she stopped here at the most inopportune moment. The Crown Prince said, "It seems to be a very interesting person. Can he find out who she is?" "The two of you just have to be there," the Crown Prince said. Well, when everyone had dispersed, Mono said, "That was unexpected, my Duke. You must be tired." A signal that meant he'd take care of everything and she should grab her feet and get out. But he showed her to walk toward the room. He should have looked out for the author. It was his mistake. Asks him to forgive him, Mono said. Duke sat down on the ground and sighed. Mono walked over and asked, "Are you all right?" Raven thought no, they would surely return, both his men and the Shirando, his childhood memories. His sister asks him why they should go back to his place. "Do you really believe anyone will come back to them? There's no need to be so weak. We only have themselves." While Raven was reminiscing about his childhood, Angela stealthily approached him and offered to treat him to some cookies. She had bought him a whole box as a gift, but unfortunately what happened to them was that a sword had pierced the box while they were there sorting it out. "Are you all right?" She didn't pay attention to the fact that people from the Imperial Palace were here and walked in, Angela said. The Duke is in a terrible mood right now, Mono thought, and her sudden appearance made the situation more complicated. "Yes?" Angela asked. "It seems that at least you've realized that," Raven said. "You may rest, take this and go inside," handing her the drawing the Crown Prince had given her. As they leave, Angela looks at this drawing and thinks, "Is that her?" Origi says, "Ha ha, you asked for a portrait, it's just like you." "Where did she even get that dress from?" asked Raven. "Angela, is that her name?" he asked Mono. "Be careful, so that this doesn't happen again," Raven said. "Yes, he's sorry. He'll escort you to your usual resting place," Mono said. "No, he'll rest in the mansion," and they went inside. He'd definitely seen something worth a lot of dough today. The mystery man sketched out the situation on paper as Angela gave the box of cookies to Raven. On the way to the mansion, the Crown Prince and his bodyguard rode and discussed the situation. "Accept his apologies for your having to face his weakness," said the bodyguard. "Are you all right?" asked the Crown Prince. "The Duke is the strongest man in the Empire. There's nothing to be done about it. Far more important is the other." "Was there anything special in that room?" asked the Crown Prince. "It's completely empty," said the bodyguard. "Either she couldn't bring her things because she was in a great hurry, or she had nothing at all," thought the Crown Prince. He supposes it was both. "And don't talk about weakness, Bourbon. You're doing very well, so don't worry and do what your heart tells you to do." It was the 4th day after that mess. Celebrations. Told her what would definitely need to be added to the work. "It may be tedious, but you will need to write these things," Manu told Angela. Reggie gave a tour of the mansion. "It's full of mice, so keep your eyes open. Everything around her looks amazing and the servants are so kind to her. Well, the best part, of course, is the food. Wonderfully, insanely good food. I'm not sure the truth deserves all this. A couple days ago she couldn't have dreamed of a life like this. Although Reggie was worried about not being able to adjust to life in the mansion, she became very popular among the maids after the recent incident. Of course, she's the main eyewitness. Now all she had to worry about was herself. "This is your workroom, Miss Scholar," Mano said. With Serum's help, she had gotten an office in the library where she could secretly work on her novel. The rest of the time she assists the librarian. Well, anyway, in such favorable conditions, she began work on the continuation of the novel. However, it's over. She's having a creative crisis. It took her half a day to get 2 words out of her. Just trying to write in the old style makes me cringe. She's already freaking out, and the sun's going down. After that incident, he never left his room. So she had no opportunity to meet him, and her inspiration left her. At home, she could fan herself with his paparazzi-drawn portraits, but it's pretty hard to go into the void. The drawings that Reggie has are somehow not much help either, but he thinks. Since returning from the war, he's had so much on his plate that he hasn't had a chance to rest. He must have been tired. He went to bed, hers the same night he got back, and he had to take care of a lot of other things. Angela remembered the Crown Prince. "Are you all right?" When he asked her, that's what the Crown Prince was. It was the first time she'd seen him. He's a real looker, she thought. To be honest, the image of the good-natured Crown Prince matched the image of the prince she had always envisioned for herself. But now that she had met him, she's freaking out. He's swinging his sword for every fart. Man, for her to write something nice, she should be a fan, not remembering those creepy faces, Angela said. But after all, he did smile, she thought. She feels like he has a dimple on his cheek like a princess. He'd look really cute. As she closed her eyes and fell asleep, she said she wished he would smile at her some more. At that moment, the librarian came into the library and called for Mrs. Angela. She woke up and asked. He said they would clean up the place themselves today so you could come back early. Angela noticed that there seemed to be no lights on in the prince's room today. He must have gone somewhere, she thought. And the gardener who usually tends the trees at this time is nowhere to be seen either. Maybe the prince is in his office, Angela thought, and rushed there. As she ran to the door, she saw that there was a light on. She thought he was in there. She's just a little peek, and peeking through the slit peeked in. Just then a voice called out to her. "Did you write something today and come in, please, okay?" Angela said. "Okay." It was Sir Mano. "It's nothing. She just saw the light on in here and decided to look in." "What's all this?" asked Angela. "The Duke's working papers, accumulated over the course of the war," said Mano. "Except for important matters, all of this is handled by him in the Duke's absence. He should take a break. What brings you here?" he asked. "Oh, I'm sorry. She thought the prince came out of his room," Angela said. "This morning the Duke left for an important meeting. He doesn't like the fuss, so he quietly went out the back door. And Angela wanted to see him very badly. "Since you're here, have a seat," Mano said. "Oh, he has yet to return this sword to the Crown Prince's knight. Just take it aside and sit down." If she sat down right away, she would have already stabbed her ass, Angela thought. "He noticed that you had a good deal, shopping. The bill was pretty hefty." "I'm sorry," said Angela. "She'll pay it all back as she goes along." No, we'll consider it compensation for your hard work on the novel," Mano said. "By the way, how's the work coming along? Thinks the Duke, after he's rested, will check it out. He plans to do it periodically," Mano said. "Well, wow," thought Angela. "Is there a problem?" asked Mano. "You wouldn't happen to have any paparazzi portraits of the prince, would you?" asked Angela. At her house, she would look at the drawings and fan out, that is, write using her imagination. Since she can't see the prince at all, she thought perhaps a few portraits might help her.